Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
From ACI perspective, as your container instance, if you see there are number of levels of isolation or number of levels of security which is being implemented which you don't have to take care of, like creation of virtual network, creation of a virtual machine which will be hosting your container. You just have to focus on what is the image that you would want and how many instances of that image one would want to create. Like rightly said, if I have an application code being running inside this container, that will be made accessible to the end user. You can also have bunch of containers which are interacting together by using Docker Compose. Even that Docker Compose as a resource can be hosted over here. Right? That is what is being mentioned as part of the container instances. Like we have been discussing about Service Fabric yesterday, we have been discussing about AKS that these are PaaS services. Even container instances are PaaS services. You don't have to create the virtual machine yourself. It will automatically create it behind the scenes. But again, you will not be able to do RDP to this machine, and this machine would be shared amongst multiple users. Like in Azure Functions, you at least have happened to see the app service plan. Here you don't even see the app service plan, or you don't see the machine here, any references of that. It's all created in background and Microsoft exposes only the service endpoint over here. Do you have any security issues with that? I'm not saying security issues in any ways. Microsoft says I will promise the required SLA for it. In terms of security is concerned, you can specify whether you want Azure Active Directory based security or you want to have a key based security. You can enforce your own security limits. You can use a key vault for encryption, decryption of values. Right, those things we can do. What are the sizes of container you want to create? Those things you can mention over here. But how it gets created behind the scenes? That entire process is managed by abstracted by Microsoft. In terms of persistent storage, that you will see the data is being persisted by using your storage file share, and that can help you work as volumes. Remember the architecture of microservices where it says the common data cannot be inside the container because the speed with which the container gets created it is the same speed with which it can get destroyed. As far as the actual data is concerned, the actual data will be outside. Like Chana was mentioning about a use case about the videos. The video content, some part of it, can be copied locally inside the container, but the actual video content is outside the container. Whenever need be, it can be copied from there, pulled from there, streamed from the original source, and then displayed to a number of users. That's how it will be working over here. And that's the entire process, how it happens within Invato. Now I'm not sure if you are aware about types of containers. You have Linux containers and you also have Windows containers. Yesterday, I was mentioning about how Microsoft came up with their own version of container management or their own solution for microservices. Here you will see the same thing which is happening again. Microsoft has provided something called as Windows containers. Though from my experience, around 2-3% of the industry is right now using Windows containers, but Microsoft is pushing towards it. Microsoft is trying to create and make sure that Windows container becomes one of the options available. I'm not sure if you have heard about number of applications which are running on Windows containers. There is a huge laundry list of it. But parallelly, what Microsoft has also done is most of their major workloads, they have started publishing it on Linux environment. You have something called as SQL Server on Linux and SQL Server on containers as well. If you go to hub.com, this is the primary registry. This is the primary registry where all the regions are being saved. Can you see this? If I go for Windows containers, you will be able to see large number of available images over here which are running on Windows containers. Vis-a-vis, if you look at Linux-based containers, you can see the number over here, how many images you have for Linux-based containers. In terms of verified publishers that you have official images that you can check it over here. SQL Server MongoDB, you have plenty of Windows-based containers. These are two areas which are developing faster, developing in a speedy manner, and Microsoft is currently pushing for Windows-based containers. If you look at Azure Container Instances, it supports both of it. It supports Linux-based containers and it supports Windows-based containers as well. Like I was mentioning about Docker combos, here you can have something called co-scheduled groups. I can have number of groups of containers. If you recall, yesterday we were discussing about something called as pods. Within one pod, I can have number of related containers which are executing. Similar kind of concept you can see over here as co-scheduled groups. In terms of management or creation of resources, you can make use of these groups. In terms of virtual network deployment options that you will see if you already have your virtual network. Now this will require premium support instance, premium tier within your ACI. But this feature is available where you can have existing virtual machines or virtual network, and within that environment you can create ACI instances. Like Guru was mentioning about security, you can specify that applications or resources within a given virtual network. Only they will be allowed to access the Azure Container Instances. You can put that restrictions. That possibility is there. No more when you say PaaS services, they will always be publicly accessible. It's up to you. How do you want to restrain or restrict it? Chahinda may have made a good idea on this because AWS has the same kind of architecture where everything that you create is part of VPC. Am I correct? Yes. Same architecture is. Microsoft is also getting inspired. I'm not saying copied, getting inspired from it. Every PaaS service that you have, you can restrict it or put it inside a virtual network and you will decide. But by now all services may not be restricted through that, but many of them. Microsoft has managed to do this by supporting a virtual network-based security. This is how it will work. I can have number of containers, number of supporting applications or supporting members over here, where you can have a separate container for. You have respective containers over here where the database is running, where you have your application services running inside a container, your web application running inside a container, and then you publish it onto a respective port or a public IP along with DNS. When you refer to a container group, what it means is represented in a diagram where the data stored as well as the application contents, all of them are running into one group. Whatever container name you want to mention, and the reason why you are trying to log into Docker Hub is if I can pull some of the resources from there. You can have quick start images, your Azure Container Registry, from where you can get the values or go for Docker Hub. In my case, I'll take a pre-existing container image. If you see the options available here, you have ACI Hello World posted on Linux Windows Server, Core Linux Web Server. You decide which of these images you want to use over here. What is the size of the container that you want to create? This is what I was mentioning about the networking type. It could be private. Here you can say that this container instance should be available to other machines within this virtual network itself. I can do that. Even if you don't have access to the whatever DNS label you want to mention over here. When you are creating this container instance, what it does is it creates the required infrastructure behind the scene. Whether you want to look at scalability or any such requirements, it will automatically scale itself. Auto elasticity or auto scale as a feature is part of your container instances. If you want to check for documentation of the scene, you can create your container instances by using PowerShell, by using Portal. Right now, what I have done is I have created this resource using a portal. I'm really tired and now I want to take some rest. When you want to take a rest, what do you mean by rest over here? When I want to take rest, I will have to go back to some of the ways where most of these efforts is being taken care by the vendor itself. If you have been looking at till now in terms of IaaS solutions, where we are the ones who is creating a virtual machine, installing all the applications on it, choosing the right kind of template for it, whether it is looking at license installations, license configuration, then installing a load balancer, having different regional deployments in different sections. There has been enormous amount of hard work that we have been talking about throughout the previous modules. Now in the recent sessions, you must have realized that slowly and steadily we are moving towards more and more PaaS services. And as part of the architecting principles, there has to be some place where you would say that now things have stabilized for me. I know how to control these things, how to work with these resources. Everything is under control. I am not 100% sure on this, what I am trying to tell you, but as time moves by, you all will be able to realize it yourself. And which other administrators have realized that using IaaS as a resource or infrastructure components in terms of management overhead that you have is much more as compared to PaaS services. Any experience you all have on that? The amount of management overhead that one has once it comes to IaaS components is much lesser in PaaS environment platform as a service. You think it is less or more? I think it is less. In infrastructure, the amount of management that one needs to do is much more as compared to what you have in a PaaS platform. Because once it comes to PaaS solutions, once you have configured these resources, once you have configured auto scale, once you have configured your members over there, it runs smoothly. Whereas in terms of now, again depends upon what is the background that you come from. If I come from an admin background where I already have a library of scripts for me, scripts with me, where I know by running these scripts, I will be able to create resources, delete resources, manage resources, install patches on those systems. I will have automation scripts to check for these resources time and again. Depending upon what resources I have right now. Based on that, it will define whether it is easy or hard for me. If I am from a developer background where I don't have any such admin scripts and my focus is agility, my focus is quickly moving ahead and deploying newer versions of my software without having to worry about what is the underlying infrastructure needed for it. In those scenarios, these PaaS services will be helpful for me. Simple or easy or difficult. It also depends upon what is the current knowledge stack that you have or what is the kind of team that you have with you. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.